Right, cool. We'll kick off now. I've had a few people message to say that they'll be a bit late or they'll just have to catch the recording, but that's fine. Great to see such a strong turnout again, anyway, to what promises to be a really honest and insightful talk by Si today. For those of you that don't know me, my name's Christy. I'm a quality and test consultant for Expertise Recruitment, and I place great testers with my great clients across both Yorkshire and the Northwest. So for those new to the group, as I keep saying, the idea behind the Lunch and Learn series is to get a range of testers to cover a range of topics that can both help the community with their work and get people talking as well during this period of relative downtime for so many. As there's some slight Zoom fatigue floating around, especially for for those of us still at work and in constant online meetings, the idea behind the format is to keep the sessions short and sweet, but informative and enjoyable all the same. So every week we'll have one speaker give roughly a 30-minute talk on one topic, followed by a Q&A. This week, we obviously have the fantastic Simon Long doing a session on his personal journey to become more tech aware. And next week, we actually have the wonderful Louise Gibbs doing a session on how to overcome the barriers to learning test automation and what you can do to support your development in this area. So I'm really looking forward to that one as well. During the session today, if you have any questions throughout, please utilize the messaging function on Zoom. So you can ask them just while they're fresh in your mind. And me and Si will answer these at the end. Do also feel free to speak up at the end, though, so you can ask any questions you might have. I love it when these sessions spark conversations between people, so really don't hold back. While Simon is talking, as ever, if you could put your mics on mute so there's just no background noise or interference. And as I always say, if you're fully clothed and feel comfortable doing so, leaving your camera on is a nice way to put the speakers at ease and make the sessions feel a little bit more sociable. But I understand, as Lee mentioned, some people might be eating their lunch. But without further ado, I'm going to pass over to Simon now. I hope you all really enjoy the session. So away you go, Si.
Okay, thanks, Christy. So yeah, this session really is, and I'll share some slides shortly, but to give you a bit of a background, this session is about my kind of personal journey as a tester. Been in testing around about 13 years now, and it's all about me just kind of identifying areas where we can improve as a tester, a functional tester, and also it's a self-perpetuating talk, this, because as you will find shortly, one of the goals that I discovered was public speaking. So having observed great public speakers over the years, I've got a real drive to do public speaking. So I'll hold my hands up. I'm not the greatest public speaker. I'm very nervous. So I'm kind of making sure that I'm just going to take my time here. So I'm trying to be as informal. So hopefully the intention is today. I mean, I hope everyone's staying safe, by the way, and it's great that people can attend. And first of all, thank you very much for attending this. I feel really kind of overwhelmed the amount of people who are kind of attending. So and this talk really is it's not a technical talk. It's just to be about my own personal journey. It's not meant to be a right or wrong journey, and I've made some mistakes. I'm going to open and honest. So, but I thought it'd be quite good to share what I've done to the community. So I'm going to try hopefully now to share my screen successfully. So let me just click share here. Hopefully you can all see my screen now, which has got my journey title on there.
Yep, got that.
Cool. Okay. So yeah, so this is all about how my own personal journey is to become more tech aware. So the key part of this is becoming aware. So first of all, we'll just jump in the background, just a bit of a background about me. I won't go too much about where I kind of started from, but so yeah, I've been in testing about 13 years. I've done various testing roles, and I would say, and this is the background to this talk as well, the majority of the time I classify myself as a functional tester. I never really truly classify myself as technical, and this is what I'm trying to address in this crazy year of 2020. So I started out initially as in financial services in 2007 as business testing. So I was a hands-on product tester for Barclays down in Knutsford. Absolutely loved it. It was very much 100% functional role. Know the product. That's it. So we spent lots of years on that, being a business tester, which was great. Making sure that the product functions. The role itself was quite restrictive in terms of what you're allowed to expand yourself. And obviously back at that time in 2007, the testing industry was completely different. So I then moved into user acceptance testing, which is actually one of my biggest passions in the whole of testing in QA. Is I really adore the actual aspect of user acceptance testing and being involved with it. So I moved in more into test leadership. So again, at this point in time, I was still a functional tester. And that was at financial services as well. And then I moved into test management. So I was at the University of Liverpool, and I took my functional background, and I started to kind of see the more technical aspects of it. I kind of did a bit of self-research into performance testing and introduced it there. But still, in the main, I was a functional tester. And then I really took a real big jump when I went to a company in Manchester at the Co-op, and was then brought on to be a non-functional test manager, which is probably the biggest jump career-wise I've done so far. Made me realise how out of my depth I actually was, speaking with great people, technically minded. And I thought, there was that point in time I thought, I need to start making myself more technically aware. There's only so much you can actually liaise with your technical test lead, or I need to kind of, so it was at that point in time, I thought I then need to kind of expand my horizons. So I then kind of moved on to my current role and then moved over to the Berry Group. So I'm trying to now combine my functional knowledge, my test management knowledge, with going into a brand new environment, which is, for me, brand new. It's an agile environment. I'm 10 months into it now at the moment. Working with some absolutely phenomenal people, and actually it is overwhelming at some point, which I'll come on to shortly. But as someone's on the call here, as Lee Rathbone, as you'd be aware of, working alongside people like Lee is in itself a self-development step at the moment. It's kind of, you get to work with great people like that at Very, so it is kind of overwhelming now, and that's probably how this talk has come onto it. So so as I mentioned, for myself at the moment, I'm trying to get more technically aware, but this is coming from, I'm a functional tester at heart, and I've realised I shouldn't let that functional passion go. I just need to build on top of it. But it's tough when in the industry at the moment, it's all about automation, API testing. It's kind of, it could be quite overwhelming. And this is kind of a bit of a background of how I'm dealing with that wave of kind of overwhelming. So this journey that I'm going on, why am I actually doing this? Well, I actually did this talk. Me and Lee went down to the Midlands tester gathering late last year, and actually the adaptation for the moment wasn't there. It was all about self-development. It was all about me identifying areas where I would like to develop as a technical tester, but also out of this came public speaking. But the second part of this is adaptation and its circumstances. Now, this has happened in the past 3 months. Another reason why I'm now going on this journey is because I've almost been forced to adapt because of this COVID-19. There's no almost about it, actually. So I'll touch up on that shortly. But as well as it being all, yep, I'm owning my self-development, there has been a case, as probably most people have, we've had to force a change. So I've had a slight change in roles, which has been a real shock to the system for me, which I now realise is a good thing. But I'll be open and honest about that shortly. So yeah, there's two areas why I'm doing this: is self-development and also adaptation. So my actual journey of becoming more tech aware, really, I started owning this in late 2020. So what I kind of did is I was talking to people at the Very Group and people outside my network, and I realised what we do as testers and tech people, we all have our company's personal objectives. By Q1, you must deliver A, B, and C. But I thought it's time to step back and actually personally set me some goals that is actually completely separate from work. So what I did one Friday afternoon, and this is another great reason for where I'm working at the moment, because to give you this time, I did 3 things on Friday afternoon. I was inspired by a few other people at Very Group. I actually booked a really big room out just for me on your own. And I personally, if you want to kind of do a bit of analysis on where you want to create your own personal roadmap, I recommend doing this. About 2 or 3 hours over lunchtime, I went and got myself a coffee. I booked a really big room. It got a big whiteboard. It's just me, myself, a whiteboard. And I don't know about anybody else, but personally, I'm a huge music fan, love music fan. And I actually realised that my mindset gets into a different state when I play different music. So in this instance, and I'm a huge Beck fan, so it was almost alchemy this time. It was almost, I had a coffee in hand, I had a big whiteboard wall and a kind of, which you can see over here. So I was sort of just jotting ideas down, just going off on tangents, and I just put some music in the background. And I really can't recommend that music part as well, to be honest. I know when you're in offices, it's still frowned upon that you should play music, but I cannot disagree with it more. If it helps you get in the zone, especially for self-development, put your headphones on. And if anybody is a Beck fan, the last album was fantastic and it got me in the mood. So, so out of this, it was about 2 or 3 hours. And really, there's two key themes that came out of this: public speaking based on experience. So I was trying to go into public speaking, but actually thinking, what can I talk about? I'm not, in my mind, I'm not an expert on anything, and I will never profess to be an expert on anything. But somebody pointed out, actually, the best thing you are an expert is on what you're experiencing. So I thought I'll do public speaking based on experiential talk. So what have I felt, and so it's more of an emotion. So that's probably why I'm here today. And then second of all, there was a common theme, like I want to learn automation. I want to kind of read code. I'm not a coder, probably never will be, but I at least want to read it. I want to kind of at least do code reviews. I actually want to become more technically aware. And I actually think becoming aware technically of some methods is just as important as being proficient, especially if you're in quality assurance. Don't put the pressure on yourself to become more proficient, just at least be aware. And as you'll see in a minute, that's kind of where I fell into a trap, shall we say. So I got all these goals and I documented them. I kind of typed them up on Trello. I kind of put them on my own Digiboard. So I decided to, rather than keep them to myself, I decided to socialize these goals. I thought, one of the things I want to do is I want to give back to the testing community. So I went onto Twitter, went onto LinkedIn and said, hey, I want to do more public speaking about my craft, my testing craft, which I had absolute passion for. But so I'll kill two birds with one stone. So Twitter, LinkedIn, I started to kind of put some material on there. Got great response, absolutely great to my wider network. Mentoring and supporting from internal colleagues and external. Personally, I think this, for anyone, if you've not done it already, whether you've got connections in testing or not, your internal and external colleagues can be so supportive. And to be honest, this has helped me over the past 5 or 6 months and longer, to be honest. I've had people over the career. So just kind of utilize that to validate your goals. And even video one-to-one sessions, this was done before kind of lockdown happened. So for example, there's a guy at the Very Group, Rob Davis, who kind of decided to kind of do video one-to-one sessions to teach me Cypress. And there's a couple of us went in. I think Lee was in there as well. And it was fantastic to be able to actually do this over video. And actually I started writing lines of code for automation on a screen. It was really nerve-wracking, actually, even more nerve-wracking than this, to be honest. And then also, how else was I going to sort of get towards my goals? So it's self-learning. So owning your own self-development. I can't, it sounds like a broken record, but no one's going to do it for you. You've got to kind of identify where you want to improve. So Test Automation University, I jumped on there, did a course on Cypress, which was fantastic, and also API testing. I also, as well, decided to go a bit left field and actually sort of do smaller talks like this. This talk actually was only about 90 seconds at the Birmingham Bids test meetup, so I've now expanded this to 30 minutes. I still don't know how I've done that. But I've actually volunteered to go and speak at meetups, which are not just test either. Last time I did one, I was at the Chester Devs meetup. So imagine speaking as a tester that's not technical to a room full of devs. How nerve-wracking was that? But they were great, honestly, Chester Devs. So that's what I want to try and do more. And I would recommend just even doing things like this to a non-tech audience. And I found so far has really helped me gain confidence, not only in public speaking, but cementing the basics of your technical awareness. So, and that's kind of the background of my goals. And so that was my journey. I had my journey, and if it wasn't for COVID-19, this little bubble here, adapting, would not have existed, and we probably would have had a 5-minute quicker talk. So it would have gone straight on to how I'm progressing. However, So that was my goals. 2020 started, excellent, speaking to people internal, started going to meetups. However, COVID has obviously happened, and it's this dreadful time that we're in at the moment, and we've all been affected. And so at this point in time, I know all companies have needed to adapt. But at the Vogue Group, we've had to kind of make lots of changes. And the change for me personally was going from a test coach temporarily to actually becoming a QA engineer again. So, and this is where I kind of started to kind of fall apart, to be perfectly honest. And this is where I completely underestimated it. So, as being a test coach and a test manager for years, I'm used to speaking to QA engineers, test engineers, and going, right, come on, let's get it done, let's get the job done. And it was all this, ego, I don't know what I can call it, but it was all like, oh, whenever a change comes, we'll roll up our sleeves, which the mindset was right, and I still don't kind of apologize for that. What I did underestimate is actually when you do roll up your sleeves and you go back to a role that you've not done for 8 years, I really underestimated how much it would freak me out. So that was, I started out on being asked to do this quality engineer role, and it's in our fantastic app team. So we've got an app team dedicated for the app on Android and iOS. But it quickly became really overwhelming. I realized that last time I was a QA engineer at that type of role was probably late 2013. And as most people on this call know, the testing industry has changed dramatically. And plus, for the past 6 years, I was in a leadership coaching role, and I was in my comfort zone. And another phrase that gets used about is great to throw yourself out your comfort zone, but of course, it sounds simple, but once you're out of your comfort zone, you're not comfortable anymore. And I can assure you now, when I first went into this role about 3 months ago now, I was immediately not comfortable. And whilst it's great giving the advice of saying, everyone, you need to get out of your comfort zone, when you're the one having to take your medicine, and it really did freak me out. And so I'm not going to stand here today and say I coped with that change really well. It was great. Quite frankly, I didn't cope with that change very well at all. But as we'll come on to shortly, I then come back to some coping mechanisms. So what I realised is that my mindset of being a test manager and a test coach had blinded me from the task in hand. I was immediately, when I went back to a QA engineer role, I thought, all right, great, we'll run some tests, do some test design. And I was like, wow, last time I did any test design in earnest was 2013 in a waterfall environment, a really kind of regulated environment. Whereas now I'm in an agile environment, speed of delivery is completely faster, and it's in an app. So I was freaking out because, when we have done the ISTQB course and all that, and you get to used to doing the test case design, it was at that point in time I realized you can't pick skills like that up just straight away. Whereas immediately I thought I can go and do it. So I was shocked, to be honest. I was completely out of my comfort zone at that point in time. And this, by the way, this was all self-pressure on me. I'd gone into it and I'd put pressure on myself thinking I could just pick up, I can get on that bike again, I could start riding it. Absolutely great. You do underestimate when you've not done a role for quite a long time, how shocking it is that you can't pick it up again. And that's why I felt helplessness. I generally felt it was actually, am I good enough? Why is it taking me so long to start writing tests again? Understand the concept. And then my old friend made an appearance again. Was I ever actually good enough? So you then start thinking, actually, back in the day, was I ever good enough there? Imposter syndrome, it comes in. And at this point in time, I can't, if you ever feel like this is where you need to reach out your network. I've got a fantastic network. But I actually, to be honest, at this point in time, I was about 3 weeks into the role. I'm even shaken a bit now, thinking of the time when I hit rock bottom. It's a real kind of tough time. But I had support around me, so this is just myself putting pressure on myself. So it was at that point in time I hit rock bottom. As a test manager, my legs had been completely swept under me. It was probably the right thing to do, to be honest. I think the right journey. It was a shock, but what I realised at that point in time, I had to change the perspective. I'd been in this position once before, about 10 years ago, when I was in another role, and that didn't particularly end well. So I thought, actually, and again, what I can recommend, if you're in a bad place, think of the last time you were in that bad place and how you got out of it. And one of the things I didn't do last time, 10 years ago, when I was kind of freaking out, I was like, we'll speak to someone. So at that first of all, I actually made a call that morning to someone at the very group who's my mentor and friend. And I said, I'm in a bad place. And this person was unbelievable. He took his time, he dropped everything and said, right, let's get on a call. And I have to say, if I can ever repay this to anyone, I'm more than happy to be that person, because whatever mechanisms, whatever models we've got with coping with it, talking is absolutely the key. So for me, it was very cathartic. So I approached my person, this contact. So going back to that last slide there, was I ever good enough? I then realised, well, I am good enough. And actually, it's okay not to be okay. So through natural conversations with a few people as well, and my go-to people, I realised I'm not the only one that was suffering throughout this change. Other people were changing as well. And it sounds perverse, but when you realise that other people's roles or other people are going through this, it makes it easier, not only for yourself, but then you realise, actually, contact those other people and maybe share, as Lee Rathbone says a lot of time, sharing is caring, and absolutely is spot on. And that's realised I'm not the only one in this position. And actually, I realised that my feelings, it's a natural reaction. And as soon as I realised, it was a moment of clarity. As soon as you realise that's natural, this kind of fear, actually that's part of it. That's a coping mechanism in itself. So you're actually on the road to recovery. I also realised, and when I was analysing the situation, I realised I wasn't actually getting put under that much pressure externally. It's an internal pressure on myself. This desire to be the best at what I can be was actually, it's a terrible trait, because you just need to have a bit of realism. So at that point in time, I then thought, well, how am I going to get out of this feeling from complete helplessness? I had people speaking to people, internal and external. And then I realised, actually, you've been in testing 13 years. Just fall back on the simple things. Just start. You don't need to go and implement an automation framework straight away. Just start to write acceptance tests. I can write an acceptance test, I thought. So I thought, oh, okay, I'll just do it on my own. And actually started to flow. And as soon as I got one point of, I was then able to kind of do some acceptance tests for the app and actually run them. Just start with simple functionality. It's self-perpetual. I was able to add value and actually bringing it back really nice and simple. The kind of just fall back on what you know and forget everybody else. For your own sanity, that's what I would recommend. And I would also realise what was really important was being brave. Ask the questions. Ask for help. What is the worst that can happen? So I started to ask in the team. I always say to Ray, ask the daft question, and we all know there's no daft questions, but ask the questions. What does that functionality do? I know, developer Ray, that you think I'm asking a really simple question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. Or ask someone else in your network. Say, listen, am I doing... So being brave is probably the most important aspect I think all testers in QA have. Being brave at asking the questions, I think, are as important as a tester's tool set as having your ability to automate in C#, Ruby, or whatever. Both, a bit like the Agile Manifesto, we value aspects on each side, but it's these skills of being brave and asking the questions I realised that's where, as a test manager before, I could bring those to the fore. And then I realised in my QA engineer role, I can bring my strategic thinking to the role. So I realised I can change the role. And even this morning, to be perfectly honest, yesterday, we're now talking about implementing a new automation strategy that, as a test manager, I know that's what I would like to do. And my previous role at the co-op, that's what we did. And I thought, oh, I can add to this role. I can make it a little bit different. So that's kind of where I realised that this kind of major change that came in for COVID, it really kind of I had to change. And that was a journey that I've been on myself in the past 3 months, to be perfectly honest. So it's weird even speaking about that now, actually, out loud. It's kind of nervous and kind of takes me back to the moment where I had that rock bottom conversation. So what progress am I making on both aspects? So So the main thing I was really impressed with before the change, I was really getting into Cypress, and from someone who's never done automation before, hands-on, I found it really keen. I was trying to attack maybe too many things at the start of the year. So I was speaking to one of our devs, our testers in dev at Berry, who's saying API testing. I was trying to tackle API testing. How do you do that? Automation, different languages. But what I realized that once I started doing Cypress, thanks to the people at Berry and the network, I really enjoyed it. So my recommendation is, if you're learning something new, you're trying to do 2 or 3 at the same time, find the one that you enjoy and keep pulling on that thread. Just do one thing and then keep. So for me, Cypress, I would love to get back to doing it. I made great strides this year. I was able to read JavaScript. And I mean, for most people on here, that sounds like reading English language. But for me, it was massive. It was a punch the air moment, and it was a fist pump moment. So I was able to kind of, even then I start designing the tests. I was like that. When you're seeing, I don't know, is there a greater joy in testing when you design a simple automation test and it runs correctly for the first time? And it's just like, it brought a big smile to my face. But just start with one thing and just start one thing, do it small, do it well. And it is easier to learn when you enjoy the subject. There's no point trying to force yourself to do something if you can. Obviously, we all need to learn something in our jobs, but if you've got a choice of learning, just pick out the one that you actually enjoy learning. And that makes it a much more pleasurable experience, to be honest. So I've also, as a result of this journey, I've gone on, so I've now started to be aware of GitHub as well. So, I mean, this is, again, thanks to someone at Very, a guy called Andy Beacock. He's absolutely fantastic. Gave up his time, showed me about GitHub, and actually said, this is what GitHub's for, but also about the Git pages. And I've now got my own Git page. I've only done a couple of blogs. And I follow a lot of people out there do some great blogs, like Duncan Nisbet, Louise Gibbs, absolutely fantastic. I'm inspired those people. So I thought, well, you know what? And my blog's there. I'll probably do a blog about my experience of doing this talk after today. So I started to become aware of GitHub itself and Bitbucket, actually conceptually how pushing and pulling code on there, but updating your own blog page on there. That's really liberating as well, actually. I have to say that it's probably that my blogging is probably the most. I need to do it a bit more. It's like with anything, but it's certainly a start. So I've certainly, in terms of getting my profile out for becoming the test community, that's progressing really well. And the past week, I mean, for someone like me to actually start to use Jenkins is almost unheard of, to be honest, in my mind. So I'm now starting to use Jenkins. I mean, this is on a really basic way, by the way, guys. Like starting up my own test environment in the morning for Amazon. So started using Jenkins to start servers, close down servers. I've even done it to pull a master branch from a code repository. I sound like I know what I'm talking about. I generally don't, but I'm starting to use Jenkins. Which I never thought I would do. And I've started to understand testing API web services. So again, the change that I said before about going into the different role has taken me away from that slightly, but I'm off the side. I'm still trying to research this. But again, the change that's been forced upon me, which I'm now thankful for, is actually understanding the concepts of app testing. So I'm now in a squad whose sole goal is to support and develop our 2 apps. So I've now got exposure to app release cycles. So I now know exactly, certainly in terms of how we release app releases, how pull requests work, and what QA's involvement in pull requests are. I had to do a review of a pull request the other week for some code. Absolutely frightening, but great at the same way. Understanding what Firebase app distribution is and kind of demystifying. And
thanks for feedback. This one definitely helped us at the beginning because we weren't comfortable. So
sorry, is that
the developers doing the testing on the same side? Engineers weren't comfortable yet. They were
sorry. Can anybody hear me, by the way?
Yeah, I can hear you fine. I think I'm not sure where the background noise is coming from.
Okay, that's okay. So I was conscious then. I was speaking, but then I thought I'd not checked if anybody could hear me. So So I'll carry on. Yeah. So also network throttling and manipulation. I've never really thought I'd be able to do this before. And again, I was speaking to Lee about this, using Charles Proxy to actually get a mobile, to facilitate your mobile testing, to actually replicate 4G, 3G signals. Absolutely fantastic. So that's really been a big win for me this week, actually. Sorry, I was just wondering if whoever that is it possible to go on mute for the moment? Is that okay?
Trying to work out where it's coming from, but I can't see.
Is it because I'm the host, Christy? Am I?
I think it's Leo.
Is it Leo? I'm sure that I can. Sorry. I'll just. I'll carry on. I'll carry on for the moment anyway. So I'm nearly there anyway. So and yeah, so the app testing one's been a big journey for me. It's really thrown me into. And Lee, I'm going to borrow from you again. It's really thrown me into the bath of change. And if anybody's not heard of the bath of change, I recommend you Googling it. I've had a real steep bath of change here. But I'm kind of getting to grips with it now. So, and that's where my progress is now. And then in terms of what learnings I've had throughout this whole experience, what I would recommend is that if you're trying to do yourself, first of all, own your self-development. Absolutely. No one else is going to develop yourself for you. I know companies out there, a lot of them are really great about providing budgets for you to do stuff, but the first thing you can do is get out into the test community. But just kind of, I'm actually screwed. I think I might be able to kind of just bear with me. I think, was it Leo, did you say, Lee?
Yeah, I think it's coming from Leo.
I think you can. Oh, there we go.
There we go. Okay, excellent. So this is my learnings from this year. So I started out this year with all of these, goals to try and learn and become automation. But one learning I've come to now, especially in my journey of changing role, one small step. Do not try and learn everything. Bite size is king. It's absolutely, just do it in small chunks. I've now learned my technical awareness rather than proficiency. I made sure that at the beginning of the year, it wasn't my goal to be proficient. I wasn't going to actually become an expert. I just wanted to be aware because I liked speaking about testing. So at least I'm aware of what API testing is, or what automation is, or what JavaScript, what's how Cypress. So I have got a little. I've shifted my own personal awareness left. Started sounding like the guy out of the office then, so apologies. And expand your personal network. I have to say, this is probably my biggest recommendation. So talks like this, Christy, fantastic. Going out to testing meetups. If anybody was at the kind of like the Liverpool tester gathering where James Whittaker at Lee organised and Dunks organised, and get yourself out there, even to non-testing, just because the amount of great people are out there. Expand your personal network, because of two things. You never know when you might need them, but I think more importantly, you might meet someone that you can help. So as I'm hoping out of this today and what I'm going on, I'm actually able to help one person. If I can help, if anyone is in a similar position, I want to give back. I've been a recipient over the past few weeks, months and years of some great people in the industry, giving me the benefit of the experience, from the Very to the Co-op, and even going back to my manager at Barclays. It was fantastic. So this is me just wanting to give back. So and my final part of my learning was just a kind of specific one is GitHub. If you ask me this time next year, what GitHub, and now what's pushing and pulling requests, I would not have been able to tell you what it is whatsoever. But that's just a little kind of something I've got under my tool belt at the moment. So, I mean, of course, that's never going to end, and I think it's always a continuous journey. And I guess come December this time, I'll do exactly the same thing. I'll put myself back into that room, put a bit of Beck on or whatever, or a new kind of whatever new artist at the time, and then just kind of do next year's goals. But I think I don't know, Chris. That is actually what I was going to talk about today. So I won't waffle on a bit more. I don't actually know how long. I think I've done half an hour, Christy. Is that right?
Yes, perfect.
I'm going to stop the share now. I can show it again. I'll just stop this so I can go back on. So yes, that's my talk. So that's what it was about, really. So
Yeah, great. Thanks for that, Si. That was really good. Really enjoyed that. I know Kevin put a question just in the chat, just asking you to explain a little bit more about how you've been using Jenkins, because I know you mentioned that earlier on. So maybe a bit more context around that.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're using Jenkins. So I'm going to specifically mention this about the squad that I'm working at the moment. So with our digital customer experience team, we have the tribe model with, I suppose across the whole, or we have the tribe model and squad model. So in terms of our app team, we're using Jenkins. So the code, again, I'm not a techie, so I'll just try to explain it in layman's terms. So Jenkins is used to kind of push the code along the pipeline. So we've got a specific pipeline for our app team. So whenever they do any development on the Android or the iOS apps, so they're both different apps, the code gets pushed up into Jenkins. And once it's ready for test, we get notified. I go into Bitbucket and actually do an approval on there to say, as a QA, I think all the collateral's ready to go. What do I personally use Jenkins for? Is so every morning I go into Jenkins and I start. I've got a virtual machine, an AWS machine in the cloud that has what we call a dev instance. So our test environment. I personally use that for building, bringing down the latest version of the code. So basically for test environment management, I'm currently using that at the moment. But predominantly in a team, they're using Jenkins to automate it's a continuous integration rather than continuous delivery. But it does automate unit tests. So in the Jenkins pipeline, it does automate unit tests in there. So we're maturing as an organization, but I'm really impressed with Jenkins. But from a functional tester, I mean, that's the best way I can describe it, really. Hopefully that answers your question, Kevin.
It does. Thank you. Thank you, Simon.
Okay, and Louise asked as well, which is probably quite timely. How do you decide which tools to use really to support your testing? I mean, presumably this might be, dependent on what they use at the very group. But how did you sort of make those decisions?
Yeah, that's a good point. So in this current, so I've been at the Very Group about 10 months. So most tools I've used at the moment have been there in place. But what I have done when I was at the University of Liverpool, when we created a new test function there, I had to we got JMeter installed there, and we got a few other tools. It was almost a case of what budget was available. So in the times I've been when choosing the tools, it's start with what budget's available. What's the most simplest tool? If you've got, so at the University of Liverpool, there's only me and another tester there. There's no point getting a super complex piece of a tool like that you needed all this experience for. We need to almost get an off-the-shelf product. So it's a case of what experience have you got in team that can support that product. Whereas when my last role at the co-op, we had a third-party testing company called Tata Consulting. I think there are a couple of guys on the call there. When they've got the experience in that, so I knew we were able to get rid of Performance Center and get JMeter because they had some fantastic guys there with experience. So it's all okay. I always think it's what experience have you got in the team, what skills have you got, what budget have you got. But in this particular role, I'm actually having a discussion at the moment within the app team to introduce a new automation tool for the app for using browser stack that we can do. I just know that because it works well on other teams, and I would say that another reason for introducing a tool could be collaboration. I know a lot of companies out there suffer death from multiple tool sets, and I think even as a test industry, we do suffer from, there's so many tools out there we all use differently. We need to kind of bring it all back in at one point. So hopefully that's kind of answered the question.
Yeah, I think so. I think Anu also asked, did you find when you didn't have the manager position, the manager title, that it was hard to influence the senior management?
You know what? That's a really good question. So at the moment, this is my first time in about 6 or 7 years that I've not got the manager title. And to be honest, that's the biggest shock to the system. And I'm going to be completely open and honest in here. When I joined Very, I knew I came in as a test coach. And even then, even today, I'm struggling slightly with the amount of influence. I'm used to having that influence of going, and it's just myself. it's not that the channels are not open there, but it is a shock to the system when you actually go into a role where you don't have as much influence that you used to. And I was aware of all this. So it's just you're surprised at yourself how things like changing a role title can have an for me anyway, has an influence on me, and kind of. But I'm adjusting with it, and I think it's a journey that I'm going on to actually say. But there are different. I'm now realizing there are different ways of influencing. Whereas previously it's like, I'm test manager, I'm QA manager. You'll listen to me. I now realize there's a different ways of influencing. So it's every day I'm thinking of that. It's a really good question actually. That sounds like I could do a blog on that as well. I could talk about that for quite a while.
Okay, thanks for that. I know Kunduz also asked or says that he is a fresher, so presumably a junior tester, and his question is how to go to the job market as a fresher. I suppose I can help you out with that as well, so feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn. Actually, I'd be happy to have a conversation with you about that after. But I mean, have you got any tips that you'd give, someone junior looking to enter the testing market?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of my big passions, and I know I get Lee's on the call as well. This is one of Lee's big passions as well. These are the future people like yourself. Absolutely. First of all, connect on LinkedIn. LinkedIn and make connections in the testing network. Be brave. Honestly, I think it sounds step, but just make connections. And feel free to connect to me on LinkedIn after this, and then just start communicating your thoughts on LinkedIn and get shared. In terms of the job market, it's just a case of get out to the test community. So that any Ministry of Test events and any kind of meetup events like this, absolutely critical. And don't just stick to testing events. Get out to as much different events as possible. I think in this day and age, your social media profile is super important. So, and the more you connect to people on LinkedIn or Twitter, follow people just like follow people like Lee Rathbone, Dan Ashby, Duncan Nisbet, James Whitaker. So if you go and there's lots of webinars out there. But I actually say mentoring as well. Feel free to, there's people out there would happy to be a mentor, have a chat with you. I'm happy to do that. We'll message that. So there's lots of, what I've realized, there's lots of support out there that you don't realize there is. So I actually think, barring the current crisis, it's a great time to be a tester. The technical change that's coming in everything at the moment is testing is absolutely more kind of needed than ever, really, especially with the data aspect. So be brave, socialize. That's what I would say. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that. I think that was really good. And as I say, feel free to hit me up on LinkedIn as well afterwards. I'd be more than happy to have a chat with you. I've helped a few people sort of into their first testing positions. And as Lee also says, follow Louise Gibbs. She is a shining light in the tech community.
Absolutely, yes.
So if there are no more questions, thank you all so much for coming and showing your support. Massive thanks to Simon for the talk. I hope you've all found the session really interesting. I know I have. I love hearing and learning about someone's personal journey. They're probably my favourite sessions. If anyone wants to get involved and do their own talk in future, or just wants to see a particular topic covered in the coming weeks, then please do reach out. As mentioned, next week we have the lovely Louise Gibbs doing a session on overcoming the usual barriers to test automation and what you can do to continue development in this area. So I hope to see you all again then. In the meantime, if anyone does find themselves out of work or keen to have a chat about the current test market, don't hesitate to reach out. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with anyone, give CV advice and just help in any way possible. So thanks again for coming, everybody. Take care, stay safe, and see you soon, hopefully.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Simon. That was great.
Cheers.
Thanks all.